The battlefield was a cacophony of chaos. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, illuminating the dark, smoke-filled sky. The ground trembled under the weight of mechanized war machines, their metallic limbs crushing everything in their path. Amidst the carnage, Captain Jarek Voss stood tall, his legendary helmet, the Aegis of Solara, gleaming under the flashes of explosions. It was more than just armor. It was a symbol of hope, a relic of the ancient wars that had shaped the galaxy. The Aegis was said to grant its wearer unparalleled protection, a gift from the gods of old. But tonight, it would serve a different purpose. Jarek's squad was pinned down, their position overrun by the relentless forces of the Void Reapers, a merciless faction of cybernetic warriors. His team was outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. Among them was Lieutenant Kaela Draven, a fierce fighter with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. She had joined Jarek's unit 6 months ago, and in that time, she had proven herself indispensable. Her tactical brilliance had turned the tide of more than one battle, and her courage was unmatched. Jarek trusted her with his life. But tonight, Kaela was in trouble. A Void Reaper sniper had her in their sights. Jarek saw the glint of the rifle scope just in time. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward her, his boots pounding against the cracked earth. He tackled her to the ground just as the sniper's shot rang out, the plasma round grazing his shoulder instead of piercing her skull. The impact sent them tumbling into a shallow crater, debris raining down around them. "Kaela!" Jarek shouted, his voice hoarse. "Are you hit?" She shook her head, her dark hair matted with sweat and dirt. "I'm fine, thanks to you." Jarek nodded, his jaw tight. "We need to fall back. This position is compromised." Kayla's eyes darted to the Aegis on his head. "Jarek, your helmet, it's damaged." He reached up, his fingers brushing against a deep crack running along the side of the Aegis. The sniper's shot had come too close. The helmet's energy field was flickering, its protective capabilities compromised. If another shot hit him, it might not hold. "It'll hold," Jarek said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Kaela grabbed his arm, her grip firm. "Jarek, you can't risk it. The Aegis is too important. If you die, the squad falls apart. The entire war effort falls apart." He hesitated, his mind racing. She was right. The Aegis was more than just armor. It was a symbol. Without it, morale would crumble. But he couldn't leave her unprotected. "Take it," he said, pulling the helmet off and pressing it into her hands. Kayla's eyes widened. "Jarek, no. I can't." "You can," he interrupted. "You're the best fighter I've got. If anyone can lead the squad out of this mess, it's you. Now put it on." She stared at him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she placed the Aegis on her head. The helmet's energy field stabilized, its golden light casting a warm glow over her face. Jarek felt a pang of unease, but he pushed it aside. This was the right decision. "Let's move," he said, grabbing his rifle and leading the way. The squad fought their way through the battlefield, Kaela at the forefront. With the Aegis, she was unstoppable, her movements precise and deadly. She cut through the Void Reapers like a blade through water, her every action calculated and efficient. Jarek fought beside her, his trust in her unwavering. Together, they reached the extraction point, their squad battered but alive. As the transport ship lifted off, Jarek allowed himself a moment of relief. They had made it. Against all odds, they had survived. He glanced at Kaela, who was sitting across from him, the Aegis still on her head. She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "You did good out there," he said, offering her a tired smile. She nodded but said nothing. There was something in her eyes, something he couldn't quite place. A shadow, a flicker of doubt. He dismissed it as exhaustion. They had all been through hell. The days that followed were a blur of debriefings and repairs. The Aegis was returned to Jarek, its crack repaired by the finest engineers in the fleet. But something felt off. Kaela had been distant since the battle, her usual sharp wit replaced by a cold silence. Jarek tried to talk to her, but she brushed him off, claiming she was just tired. Then one night, everything changed. Jarek was in his quarters, reviewing mission reports, when the alarms blared. The ship was under attack. He grabbed his rifle and sprinted to the command center, his heart pounding. What he found there stopped him in his tracks. Kaela stood at the center of the room, her hands glowing with an eerie blue light. The Aegis was on her head, its energy field pulsing with a strange, unfamiliar rhythm. Around her, the crew lay unconscious, their bodies sprawled across the floor. The ship systems were offline, the controls unresponsive. "Kaela," Jarek said, his voice trembling. "What are you doing?" She turned to him, her eyes cold and empty. "What I was always meant to do." The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She had betrayed them. She had been working for the Void Reapers all along. The battles they had fought, the victories they had won, it had all been a lie. She had used him, used the squad, to gain access to the Aegis. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Because the Aegis is more than just a helmet," she said, her tone devoid of emotion. "It's a key to the Void Gate, a weapon capable of destroying entire star systems. And now it's mine." Jarek's mind raced. The Void Gate, a mythical superweapon said to have been lost in the ancient wars. If Kaela activated it, billions would die. He couldn't let that happen. "You won't get away with this," he said, raising his rifle. Kaela smirked. "You really think you can stop me?" She raised her hand, and a wave of energy slammed into him, sending him crashing into the wall. Pain exploded through his body, but he forced himself to his feet. He couldn't give up. "Not now. I trusted you," he said, his voice breaking. "I gave you the Aegis to save your life." For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, a hint of regret, perhaps, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "And that was your mistake," she said. Jarek charged at her, his rifle blazing. But she was faster. With a flick of her wrist, she disarmed him, the rifle clattering to the floor. She grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. "Goodbye, Jarek," she said, her grip tightening. But Jarek wasn't done yet. With the last of his strength, he reached up and grabbed the Aegis, pulling it off her head. The energy field flickered and died, the helmet falling to the floor with a dull clang. Kaela's eyes widened in shock as the blue light around her hands faded. She dropped him, stumbling back. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Jarek coughed, struggling to his feet. "I took back what was mine." Kaela lunged at him, but without the Aegis, she was no match for him. He dodged her attack, grabbing her arm and twisting it behind her back. She cried out in pain, but he didn't let go. "It's over, Kaela," he said, his voice firm. She struggled against him, but it was no use. The crew began to stir, the ship systems coming back online. Jarek's squad burst into the room, their weapons trained on Kaela. "Captain," one of them asked, their voice filled with confusion. "Take her to the brig," Jarek said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "She's a traitor." As they led her away, Kaela looked back at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and regret. "You should have let me die," she said. Jarek didn't respond. He couldn't. The weight of her betrayal was too much to bear. In the days that followed, the truth came out. Kaela had been a sleeper agent, planted by the Void Reapers to infiltrate Jarek's squad and steal the Aegis. She had played her part perfectly, earning their trust and manipulating them into giving her what she wanted. But in the end, she had failed. The Aegis was returned to its rightful place, its powers safeguarded once more. Jarek was hailed as a hero, but the victory felt hollow. He had lost more than just a comrade. He had lost a friend. As he stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars, he couldn't help but wonder if he could have done something differently. If he could have seen the signs, if he could have stopped her before it was too late. But there were no answers in the stars, only silence. And so, Jarek Voss, the man who had given away his legendary helmet to save a traitor, turned away from the window and walked back to his duties. The war was far from over, and there were still battles to fight. But he would never forget the cost of trust or the price of betrayal.